From the window to the wall, we getting lit up in it, big bouncing. We does it big up in it, big bouncing.
What's up? So we've got the SS back in the garage, and we're actually going to tackle a few things that I've been waiting to get done and I just keep putting it off. So we're actually going to get the bumper at least primed tonight and hopefully sanded, and then possibly start painting it like the first coat of color. And then if we have enough paint afterwards, we're gonna go ahead and do that rear spoiler. We'll sand it down and feather out all the clear coat that's flaked off and then just go over it. And then we're also gonna try to tackle our ABS problem. So I'll show you some stuff I seen online, and the same guy that done it for me, he said he cleaned them, and I'm gonna check all 3 grounds for the ABS module, so I'll just pop them off while like the primer's drying, and just take a wire brush or wire wheel on a drill and just clean it down to bare metal, and then just put the bolts back in. Some stuff online I seen said that could be the problem, so we'll check that out first, give that a shot. And I went ahead and ordered a new caliper and both front rubber like hydraulic brake hoses for the fronts, because I have a feeling that this caliper might just be bad, and if not, hopefully it's just the hose and we can return that new caliper. Start by removing the grill and probably the lower lights, and then tape them up or zip tie them up out of the way, and then we're just going to start wet sanding this, and we'll tape around the grills, like the lower vents, we'll just tape around them. And just so we can get all the plastic without having to remove this pain in the butt. There's so many different screws and everything, so we'll throw a piece of tape over the edge here, and then we'll just throw a towel over the wheel and tire on each side. But yeah, we'll just throw a piece of tape here and then just try to get it in as far as we can. The last person that painted, they just left everything. They taped around the headlights, they taped around everything. So yeah, we'll just pop the grill completely out and the lower lights completely out so we can get that whole top edge. And then down here, I might just take these out and then kind of tape the inner grill just to keep all the paint off of this. Yeah, we'll probably just pop this off and call that good before we start sanding on this. We'll start with 500 on that. Alright, so we just start by taking this upper part off and then undoing all the tabs on the grill. It's pretty simple. You just take off what's holding it on, and then we're going to remove the bottom lights by pushing the tab in. And we'll also remove all the bulbs so we have full access to everything there. I should have moved the camera down here, but we ended up removing the little vents and this little grill here in the bottom, just to make it easier to get all the plastic painted. Alright, so we started sanding, I believe, with 1000 grit, and then we ended up switching it over pretty quickly to 600. There's a couple of scratches in a couple areas that I wanted to get sanded down pretty smooth, so we started with 1000 and then switched over to 600 to get some scratches out of the bumper as well before we started to prime. And now we're just doing a prep wipe down to get all the dust and any like grease from our hands removed before we start to prime, so everything can bond really good. The only spot that we're going to be taping off on each side is just that fender, and then we're going to put some painter's paper above that tape and tape it on as well, just to be sure we don't get any overspray on the edge of that fender.
We started with a really thin coat, and then we just went back over it again with a second coat and kind of made it pretty thick. So we ended up only doing like one process of primer on the whole thing. So we just did a really thin coat. It dries super fast in the garage. So
All right, so we've got it all primed up. I think we're just gonna probably just do one coat of primer, and we'll just run over it with a tack cloth. There's a couple spots where I went pretty heavy because I scuffed it up. I actually sanded a couple spots where there was some bigger scratches, so I went heavy on the one coat of primer. So I'm gonna be sure to wet sand a couple of runs out. And then there's one spot over here. You can kind of see that scratch. Or one of my buddy's kids hit it with his bike. So I sanded it down where it's fairly smooth, so it won't be as noticeable. I might check and see if I have some like spot putty, and I might just fill that and then reprime it really quick whenever I start to sand. But yeah, and then so hopefully I fixed the ABS problem right there. I went ahead and while that was drying, I popped off this ground right here, which I think one of those wires goes to your ABS module as well. And then the shop I took it to popped these two on the back. He already cleaned those off, but I went ahead and popped them out. And that one on the left was actually loose, like they stripped the threads. So I got it tightened in good. So hopefully we don't have to spend $500 on a new ABS module. So hopefully that fixed it. We'll test it out maybe tomorrow. All right, now we're gonna wet sand it. I'm just gonna use I think I'm just gonna use 1,000 grit. Since it's only one layer, I'd hate to hit it with like 500 or 600 and cut through all that primer super fast. So we're gonna wet sand it really quick with 1,000 and then wipe it down with a prep wipe and then tack cloth, and then we'll shoot our first layer of color. With this one, I know I'm probably gonna have to use more than one coat, so unfortunately I'm gonna have to use, I have 2 cans of that Duplicolor, like Perfect Match. It's kind of hit or miss, but this truck, I think if you remember whenever I first bought it, like the whole thing was repainted. So other than like the plastic like cladding, so they don't match anyways. So I'm just gonna hit it with that. My plan is to wrap it eventually after I get the cam and everything in, but I'd like to have all the paint smooth. So I'm gonna end up fixing the rust on the bed and the cab corners and rockers, and after that, then I'm just gonna, sand everything down, any like imperfections like dents or anything, and then just prime it. And then right after that, that's whenever I'll put the wrap on. So future goals, but for now, I want to at least get this painted red so it somewhat looks like it belongs.
Alright, so whenever you're doing the painting, you want to try to like overlap yourself by like 50% on each pass, which you can see right there I clearly messed up, but you can just go back over it and kind of fill in your gaps. The first coat you want to do pretty thin and give it plenty of time to dry. And then the second coat you can go in a lot more thick, and then if you need to do a third coat as well, you can really lay it on heavy, but just don't go too heavy where it starts to run. That's what we're trying to avoid through this whole thing. So just go a light coat on your first coat, and after that you can go pretty heavy with it. Alright, so we're going to do 2 coats of clear, and it's the same thing. Do a thin coat, and then you're also going to follow up with a pretty heavy second coat of the clear. Alright, you can kind of see how, the second coat it's actually glossing up really good. You're wanting it to look wet. That's the goal here, but you don't want to get it too wet where it starts to run. But whenever we finish painting here, we're actually going to move our heaters over to it and try to, speed up the process by, getting it pretty warm pretty quick. We let it dry for a little while, and it's cured enough where we, if we bump it, it's not going to mess with any of the paint. So you want it to dry pretty well before you start reinstalling everything, just in case you hit it. But yeah, it took a while. I think we were on it for quite a few hours in the night, but got it done. So it looks pretty good. It matches. It's a little bit lighter, and that might just be from us using a lighter gray primer. Some people use a black primer for this whole process just to get it darker, but it's just kind of hit or miss using Rattle cams. So
Looks way better. I still have to go through and wet sand and polish it, but I'm gonna give it a couple days to dry, and then I'll go through and wet sand it and hit it with the polisher. But that looks way, 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 way better than it did. I'll show you that scratch. You can still kind of see that scratch right here in the orange peel, but that's fine. You can definitely see how hazy it is over here, but it'll be all right once we wet sand it, get all that orange peel out.
Soundstripe.